Joining us now is founder and CEO of VetCom and author of The Race to Save America, Kate Monroe, as well as the professor, senior lecturer for African American Studies for the University of Maryland and Democrat political analyst Jason Nichols. Jason, Katie, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. Let's start right off with the Hegseth nomination. So what, Kate, do you think of the nomination with Pete Hegseth? Do you think he'll be out by the end of the week, or will he pull through?
I don't know that he'll be out by the end of the week. You know, a lot of people make allegations toward a ton of different people. You know, Trump had a lot of allegations toward him. He managed to become the president of the United States. We made a ton of allegations toward DeSantis. You know, everybody's getting allegations, but that doesn't mean necessarily that they did those things. I think that we need to be very clear, though, that what Trump wants is a lethal fighting force. And I don't know that you're going to find that if you don't pick somebody who is an enlisted person. The enlisted personnel in the military are our fighting force. And if you want to shore up military recruitment and show the world that we are a lethal military again, it needs to be Pete Hegseth or somebody of his ilk.
Jason, it looks like Pete Hegseth is doing a full court press. He penned a column for the Wall Street Journal this afternoon that was published. His mother did the rounds on Fox and Friends this morning, explaining the email that she wrote her son after his difficult divorce. Do you find any of this persuasive? And what do you think about his probability of being confirmed by the Senate?
The more he stays in the news, the more difficult it gets. And I think with all of these new allegations, not just the sexual assault allegation, but when we're talking about mismanagement of an organization, I'm not so sure that senators are going to be willing to put someone in charge of the Pentagon, one of the largest organizations globally, and, you know, with an $800 billion budget, hand the reins over to someone who's been accused of public drunkenness and being drunk on the job and misbehaving and mismanaging funds, particularly when we've seen that the Pentagon thus far has not been good at managing funds up to this point. They've failed 7 audits. So I think that senators are going to be reticent to actually hand the keys over to Pete Hegseth. Now, when it comes to, you know, Ron DeSantis, which was mentioned in the segment with Kilmeny Dukart, I think he'll have a much easier path towards a nomination, towards a confirmation. The question is, will that marriage between him and Donald Trump work? We know that, and one of the things I have to say, I thought Donald Trump had a point when he said that DeSantis had been disloyal to him in the past by running for president. And you know, will that relationship work right there with those questions about loyalty? So all of this will be interesting as to how it plays out. But I think Hegseth has a very big uphill climb in order to make it.
Kate, can you respond to kind of what Jason just said? Would it be a smart political move for Ron DeSantis if he were offered the position to take it? He's a very popular governor in the state of Florida. He's enacted some great legislation, but if he wants to be president of the United States someday, is it a smart move for him to accept a job at the Pentagon?
I think it could be a smart move for him. I think the people of Florida might be sad to see him go. I know a lot of people that live there that hope that they can retain him in perpetuity, which is not possible. But I think it could also be good for the country to put him there. He does have that military background. He's a very sharp man. And I would say, to counter my counterpart here, I think that Trump and DeSantis, toward the end of Trump's election run, squash their differences. And I think the two men can do miles toward shoring up all the inefficiencies in the DOD and in the Pentagon. And I think that DeSantis would work really well with DOJ to make sure that maybe we could possibly do some kind of accounting and accountability over at the Pentagon.
Jason, what do you think of this strategy? And I've been talking to some Republican colleagues of mine who feel that DeSantis should not drop out. He should not withdraw his name from consideration because he's basically providing cover to Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, other nominations of Donald Trump's that could be coming under fire. But so far, it's been reserved because everything has been pointed at Pete Hegseth.
Well, I would say if I were advising Governor DeSantis, which I'm sure he doesn't want my advice, but if I were advising him, I would tell him it's pretty much a lateral move if his aspirations are presidential in the future. I think he's much better off being the governor of Florida and staying in that position and positioning himself for 2028 rather than making himself an employee of Donald Trump and ostensibly of what could be his Republican rival in the future in J.D. Vance. So I would tell him, stay the boss of Florida and continue to try to, stay in that position and stay in good standing with the public and probably not go into the Pentagon. I think that's, something that the public doesn't necessarily look at. I can't remember the last SecDef who became president, if there's ever been one, off the top of my head. So I would tell him to stay at Florida. I think it would be a better political move for him and his future if he really does aspire to be president of the United States.
Well, we're just going to have to wait and see. This is an ongoing, developing story. We'll know more tomorrow after Pete Hegseth sits down with the president, and Ron DeSantis has got to make up his own decisions as well. Kate Monroe, Jason Nichols, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.